Hunter Biden is on trial today in a Los Angeles federal court over charges of tax evasion. He's on the hook for allegedly failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes, even as he spent millions of dollars on what prosecutors say was an extravagant lifestyle. He faces 9 counts in the LA case, 3 felony counts for tax evasion and filing false returns, plus 6 misdemeanor counts. He has pled not guilty.
Hunter's tax evasion case comes 3 months following his conviction on felony gun charges in Delaware, for which he'll be sentenced on November 13th. Prosecutors on the tax evasion case say that instead of paying his taxes, he spent the money on drugs, escorts and girlfriends, luxury hotels, rental properties, exotic cars, clothing, and other items of a personal nature. This case, as in the gun case, will likely highlight the tawdry details of his addiction to crack cocaine, bringing up a dark period of his life, his murky past, viewed by many, especially his Republican rivals, as a liability for President Joe Biden. But now that Joe Biden's no longer running, Hunter Biden's legal troubles seem to be fading, at least in terms of his dad's political prospects, even though we heard just a few weeks ago new information that he had tried to get the Italian ambassador to schedule a meeting, an offer you can't refuse. Oh, you gotta pay your respects. It's just very nakedly corrupt, in some cases literally nakedly corrupt.
Exactly.
And I don't think anyone cares that much about the gun situation. I don't, again, as I said earlier in the show, I support the Second Amendment. I think drugs should be legalized. I don't know if you happen to be consuming drugs and you buy a gun, is that a crime? I don't know that should be a crime. It seems very trivial. What doesn't seem so trivial is maybe the tax issue, and then whether he was being paid by foreign business interests to attempt to portray that he had sway over his father. I concede that evidence has not emerged that he actually did sway Joe Biden, but he certainly tried to rope Joe, dear old dad, into participating in the phone calls and the dinners and everything. That's what really needs to be investigated.
I mean, does he have to register as an agent, FARA?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that later today, too.
We're going to be talking about that. Everyone's going to be an expert on that very soon.
Yeah.
Those are serious questions, whether or not they're enforceable by going to prison. Perhaps not. Maybe it's a fine. Clearly, his judgment was not in great shape. I mean, he was under the influence. He's an addict. He's been open about that. The family's been open about that. This isn't new for presidents. I think every modern day president has had a sibling or a family member who has had some interesting, prior challenges in the law, I'll just say, from Bill Clinton to Jimmy Carter to George W. Bush himself.
Sure.
He was that sibling. Donald Trump is that person. So listen, I think the story is getting tired. I don't think the American people care about it. I know Republicans, especially when running against Joe Biden, were really pushing for it and wanted to have as many hearings as possible, but it just didn't seem to ever stick as a political issue. Obviously, it's a concern, and I feel very sad for the Biden family that they have to constantly deal with Hunter Biden's past acts, but it seems like he's gotten his act together a bit. He needs to pay his taxes.
But it's not as if they've kept Hunter at arm's length. I mean, we were hearing reporting, as everyone's wondering just in recent weeks, whether Joe Biden was going to decide not to run, as he ultimately did. And it was reported by the New York Times, by credible mainstream organizations, that he is listening to Hunter Biden, that his inner circle of decision makers was his wife and his son. And I don't know. I think some voters will wonder about that choice. Maybe it's just conservatives who care about it. Obviously, they've been very invested in the influence peddling and the corruption. But and people on the left or progressives have made a lot about alleged Trump family corruption and how they've benefited from their station. I mean, some of it does seem quite blatant to me. But also what Hunter Biden was doing seems incredibly blatant at this point.
But Hunter Biden wasn't in the administration. He wasn't an official advisor as Jared Kushner was. He wasn't, taking trips on behalf of the state to negotiate deals in the Mideast. I mean, the Trump administration was the Friends and Family Administration, and everyone was on the payroll in the White House, but also outside of the White House, cutting deals with information that they were gathering from the White House. They were using the White House and the administration as an information resource so that they could go out to Albania in the instance of the Kushner family. I mean, they're now investing in a hotel in Albania. Where did they get that information from? Clearly, they had access to a lot of intelligence, a lot of information in terms of where growth was happening and building those relationships around the world so they could continue to make money.
Sure, but I mean, Hunter did a version of that, right? He had access to his dad.
Very
He had
light.
access to his dad. I mean, that's what they were paying him for. When his dad stopped being the vice president, Burisma dropped his salary in half because that's what he was being paid for. And he did put Joe Biden on the phone when he had business meetings and dinners. He introduced, the fact checking from like the Washington Post and everything. If you read that article about, oh no, well Joe Biden never met this person. Well, actually he did. That dinner didn't take place. Actually it did. Well, he did meet. Again, Joe Biden didn't know.
Right.
But, Joe Biden doesn't seem to know a lot of what's going around these days.
Give him some credit. Give him some credit.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's some muscle memory in Joe Biden. I mean, he's been in this position for a long time. I'm sure he can smell something when it comes forward.
I think he's going to remember to be pardoning Hunter Biden before the end. That will be my prediction. Do you think he's going to do the pardon before the term is up? I expect so. That's my guess.
I don't know. I think they're going to negotiate down whatever he's convicted of.
I think last day in office, blanket pardon, why not? There's nothing to stop him.
I mean, it's not a great look for the Democrats.
So this has largely, I think, faded as an issue, but not because like the criminal nature of it has changed, but just because Kamala Harris is now the candidate, not Joe Biden. So it's like we're moving on. Although I guess the legal system is still, doing the taxes and everything.
But I mean, again, that can be negotiated down. That's why you hire really good lawyers. He was also under the influence. I'm not sure if that goes into his defense as to why he didn't file his taxes properly. I don't know if he handled them himself or he had a great lawyer.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be my excuse next year. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I didn't file my taxes right. I was drinking a little bit, experimenting with crack cocaine. It's all right.
It's not right.
You accept that, IRS?
It's a defense. I'm not saying it's a good defense. Yeah. But if you're looking for defenses, on the same note, though, let's look at the Trump family and whether or not they're going to be held accountable for their actions. There's plenty to go around there.
They're trying to lock Trump up. He's being held accountable. He's facing multiple criminal indictments. They tried to keep him off the ballot. They're trying to disqualify him as a candidate. I think the legal system is addressing Trump.
I'm saying his family, though. Okay. His family that is also benefiting from, this information that you would not have access to, cutting these deals all over the globe, building hotels. I'm curious as to when the Democrats want to bring that up and pull that up for investigation because, give credit where credit is due. The Republicans did keep this on the radar and law enforcement did decide to follow up. Maybe we should be doing the same thing with the Trump family, the friends and family and associates all over the globe. Yeah.
I mean, they didn't necessarily do a great job because a lot of the major revelations came not from what the House investigators are doing, but from the media finally taking more than a casual interest in what Hunter Biden has been up to, revealing, for instance, the Italian ambassador story and other things. And then, of course, that plea deal collapsing when the judge scrutinized it and say, wait, immunity from all future prosecution? That's what looked, I think, especially suspicious to so many of us. Yep. Like, well, you're saying, I mean, the judge found it suspicious. The judge said this goes well beyond anything I've ever granted to say that we wouldn't be, investigators would be prevented from looking into future investigations wouldn't be able to more closely probe. Again, the influence peddling, which is the thing that, might have some national political ramifications more so than his sordid drug use and his not paying his taxes.
I agree with you on this. I think influence peddling is dangerous for our democracy, and we should hold people accountable on both sides.
Yeah, well, we've got some influence peddling stories to get to later today. More Rising right after this.